OMG, baby, tell him.
Hey there, welcome to Powered by Backers. It is Justin. I am back. I am joined by my special guest, Spider Jones. Spider, thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Awesome. So I'll do a quick little intro. It's probably, for those that don't know you, you are a legend in the sports and broadcasting world. But I'll give you a quick. So you're an award-winning radio talk show host on the Fan 590, and CFRB Talk 640, and CHWO. You wrote the bestseller Out of the Darkness. You have your Order of Ontario recipient, 2020 Premier's Award winner, World Boxing Federation Canadian Ring Announcer of the Year. You were in 2000. Founder of Believe to Achieve, which we'll talk a little bit about, which is a non-profit organization. You're inducted into the Canadian Boxing Hall of Fame as a ring announcer and boxing journalist in '95. You've interviewed, which I want to talk to you a little bit about, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Roy Jones, I'm assuming senior. We'll talk about Roy Jones Jr. in a bit. Mark Wahlberg, Bill Clinton, James Brown, among others. As I said, Spider, thank you very much for joining me today on Powered by Backers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Let's get started.
Yeah, well, we had some technical difficulties. I think I've now got you on Zoom, right?
First of all, I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to this, to the internet, but and I'm also used to asking the questions, so this is going to be a little bit the other way around. You're going to be asking the questions, and I've got to come up with some answers. That introduction made me think a lot about those times, and I did all those things, and I've been honored to do it. I'm living my dream, even now in my 70s, still living the dream.
Right. Are you still working on? I hear you sometimes on the radio, but more as like a guest, right?
Yeah. I right now I'm just finishing off the script, and I just wrote another book called The Predator Within. As you know, I wrote a book I had a book published in 2003 called Out of the Darkness, which became a bestseller. I'm very happy about that. So I do a book every 15 years.
There you go.
It takes me that long to write them because I think I lack the work, the concentration it takes, and I have this great appreciation and respect for journalists and writers, because man, you have to be really be able to concentrate to get that done, and it's not really my thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've never written a book, and I don't think I'd have the I don't know what it would be, but to just sit down and write. The concentration, as you said. So, okay, let's jump right in. I want, you've obviously interviewed a ton of people. When I read sort of a couple of things, I obviously Muhammad Ali struck me as somebody. Tell me a little bit about that experience. When was it? Where was it? What was it like? Was it, tell us a little bit about the experience, interviewing someone like Muhammad Ali.
Well, to me, it was an honor. More than that, it was very exciting, because for me, I was a little overwhelmed. I met him in the 60s when he came to Toronto to fight George Chuvalo.
Okay.
At Southern Gym. At that time, we were located in Austin, Illinois, Austin. First time we met. But I always admired him because of the convictions and how he stood by them. So I had an opportunity to interview him in the late 80s and then in the 90s. And so probably one of my favorite interviews, because he liked to travel around a lot. And Ali was always an inspiration to me. So, when you have an opportunity to not just meet, but to interview and hang with someone who's been your hero and someone you look up to. That is perhaps for many once in a lifetime thing.
Right. And from what I've heard, and I mean, obviously I've never met him, but from what I heard, he was a good guy, right? Like a genuinely good guy. So what was it like interviewing him?
It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And so what was he like? Tell us what was he like as a person in your experience?
But suddenly he could be funny. I mean, he had this wonderful sense of humor, and he would do this mock anger thing with it, and yell at you, and suddenly you see this smirk break out on his face. Muhammad Ali loved to get a response out of people, but I can tell you something. I mean, it's not like we were close to family, but the times I was around and watched how he treated people, it was everything I thought he would be. Empathetic, kind, generous, one of the most courageous people I ever saw. I mean, there's a guy that sacrificed the best years of his life of conviction. He didn't believe in the war in Vietnam.
Right.
And he refused to go. He could have had it easy, despite his convictions, but that was against his convictions. So,
right.
The best years, the prime years of his life, he was exiled from the fight game, prevented from making a living. Who knows how great he could have been? I mean, to me, he's the greatest heavyweight champion I ever saw.
Right.
I saw a lot of them, but he could have perhaps even been greater if he'd have fought that 4 years, 26 to 30. He was the prime years for him.
Right.
The fight then. But he gave a lot. I think he was generous beyond anyone I knew. And not just that. Muhammad Ali, he wasn't well educated. Maybe he was a great education. But he was very smart. He was a critical thinker.
Right. So yeah, no, and so let's talk a little about. So one of the things I know you wanted to talk about is sort of the Believe to Achieve, right? The organization that you founded, that you're a spokesperson for. We talked a little bit about it briefly off air. Let's sort of transition. You mentioned, Muhammad Ali standing up for his, having conviction in what he believed in. You talked a little bit about obviously what's happening in our communities and our culture and society as a whole today around racism and, Black Lives Matter. Tell us a little bit about, sort of where Believe to Achieve and some of the things that you're working on within the communities, and some of the things that Believe to Achieve is trying to accomplish.
Well, Justin, I think it was about 1995. I think in a couple of years, I got a call from a teacher who wanted me to come out and speak to some of his youth that had been in trouble. And I said, "What should I say to them?" He says, "Fire, everybody knows your story, you share it." I mean, out front that I had trouble with past school, and spent some time in jail, and turned my life around. He said, "Talk about that. Talk about your dream of becoming a Raging broadcaster," which was something that I was conceived at the Fox Theater in Detroit back in the 50s after watching Ellen Freed. At that time, Ellen Freed was the #1 jock on the planet, and he brought a show to the Fox Theater, which a star-studded extravaganza, which featured Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, who became the first Hispanic American to have a #1 hit with Madonna. Also, the card he had Little Richard and Chuck Berry and Leon the Belmonts. But I watched the way he introduced him, and I always wanted to be that sort of person and wanted to be able to, more than anything, I wanted to be a radio personality who would share that great music with the world. Music's like an opium to me. I'm addicted to it. I love music. It's taken me through so much time. So I should share those stories. And when I was on the band, I would have little R&B, take me out of commercial. I mean, take me out into commercial and bring me back after commercial. Not talking about all that stuff. So he said, come on, just talk about how you turned your life around. So I started talking to these young people, and before you know it, it's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It just kept growing, and people were calling me, and I got calls from teachers and principals and guidance counselors, and then I began to go into prisons and speak with young people and try to empower them, inspire them, and tell them, you know, what happened yesterday doesn't mean you can't be successful.
Right.
But I found that I was able to light a fire in them. I remember when we were kids, we were very poor growing up. And we had this little house that had very little insulation in it. So I remember my father, before going to bed, he put a moving board on that fire to keep it going so we wouldn't freeze to death.
Right.
But by the morning, that fire was gone. And the house was colder than a polar bear's lunch. You know, it was cold.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought, you know, that's just an analogy. You can light a fire, but you need to nurture it and keep it going.
Right.
They would listen to my story and come up to you, bring this card, and get these letters and these notes. And I thought, you know, I hear stories about they ended up in prison or shot, killed. And it broke my heart, and I thought, I need something to continue. These kids need to be continued nurtured. Many of them come out of low-income areas, high crime, and the lure of the streets are so strong in them because we see the gangsters and the hustlers and the drug dealers wearing sharp clothes, driving big cars, got all the money and the beautiful ladies. And I mean, that's the lure of the streets. And you know, but the lure of the streets doesn't understand. I have an old saying, you might like the streets don't love you back. And so I began really to achieve, and we opened a center called the Spider's Web Youth Empowerment Center, which is at 160 Chalk Farm, which is in North Toronto.
Yeah.
And what we have an after-school show, a program that starts at 3 o'clock and goes to 9 o'clock at night. And they start when they're as young as 7 years old. I believe that if you want to deal with the crime issues today, we've got to get these people on their ground. We've got to nurture them and empower them so that they have the mental tools to fight back. Education, skilled trades. And so we help them. We have a homework program there. We have communications programs. We have public speaking programs. And we work with them.
Right.
And we empower them so that, and I swear, if I can help it through our organization, these kids will never be claimed by the streets. So that's our whole mission. Keep these kids off the streets and have them focus in on their careers and successful. It's a lot of work, and we've been very fortunate to have We've achieved. I have some wonderful people and some great organizations that support us, like Greenland Property Management. Greenland Property Management gives us the center, rents us the center, $1 a year.
Great.
Yeah. Right out of it. So that's
what
to achieve is all about.
Perfect. So no, that sounds like an amazing initiative. So how long have you been running Believe to Achieve? You said what year was it when they asked you to speak?
Believe to Achieve, my wife and I founded that organization 15 years
15 years ago. So right around when you wrote your first book. So yeah, perfect. So, and I'm sure you've helped a lot of youth throughout the years, right? And keep them off the streets, as you said. Initiatives like that, obviously Chalk Farm, a difficult neighborhoods, sort of in the northwest end of Toronto. So let's sort of look at, where do you see It's tough to transition. I don't want to transition out of that. I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed around youth and around violence and around gangs and around drugs. Where do you see sort of Toronto as a whole? In the broader North American spectrum. Are we better than? Actually, I don't even want to get into that question. Stupid question. Where do you see it going? Like, have things gotten better in Toronto, or are you seeing a decline, or what are some things that maybe community members? And before you answer that, tell everyone where can they, if they want to donate to this organization, where can they find you guys? Do you have a website?
Well, you can go to believetoachieve.ca.
Believetoachieve.ca. Okay, perfect. And they can connect with you guys?
If you want to reach me, you can reach me spiderjones@rogers.com.
spiderjones@rogers.com. Perfect. So, so if somebody wants to reach out and help the community and help you with the organization, I would encourage people watching to do so. But where do you see it going? Obviously, you've been working on it now 15 years. Do you feel like you're making an impact? Is there more that needs to be done? Where do you see this kind of as a community as a whole? I think there's a lot of things that are happening where we all need to start looking inwards, what we're doing to better or for the betterment of the community. Where do you see that going, or what are your thoughts on kind of the overall of where the community is going as a whole?
What we're doing now is that we believe, our organization believes that we've got to reach everyone. We can help them mold their future, their minds. We have a mission to eradicate racism. I mean, all kinds of racism. Black against white, anti-Semitism. We believe that people should, we're teaching our kids now that, yes, you see color. It's there. The rainbow is beautiful, 7 beautiful colors. And we teach the young people that, look, here on Earth, we're like a rainbow. Canada, we have wonderful people from all over the world.
Right.
One of the things we're trying to eradicate is racism so that people have a level playing ground. When I was growing up, it wasn't like that. I was being told by many people who were mentors of mine, forget Rachel, that's a white man's game. There are no brothers in the game and no women, which was true back then.
Right.
And it was like a black, still pretty major blackout today. We're trying to change things so that young people of color are going to pursue their dreams in any field, in any career, without being discouraged by racism or discrimination. Because during my early days in radio, being the first black man to go coast to coast on his own radio show in this country, I have a lot of young aspiring journalists ask me, is it worth the while? And I would ask them, how bad do you want it? I have an old saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but how many people want to die? You have to be able to really, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
I teach them there, but we have a long way to go. Look, I see kids turning out so well, doing tremendous things, amazing young people that come out of our youth center. But I've also seen we've lost a few because the streets and the litter, litter is it's a magnet, it's very difficult. They have
Right.
that strong, they have that strong support system there, mentors. And we need that. That's what we concentrate on. We believe to achieve, and the spiders that we can follow. Be amazing how intelligent these children are.
Yeah. No, I like the analogy of the rainbow, right? I mean, to ignore that it's there is not realistic, but to acknowledge it and appreciate it and sort of give it its just due and appreciate it, right?
A lot of people say I don't see color, and that's well meaning. But the fact is, we teach our kids because there's a few white children there, but most of us Black and Hispanic and Asian. But it's a beautiful rainbow, and these kids all get along. This is an example that the world can see. Walking to the spider's web, these kids are disciplined. They love for one another.
Right.
Racism is learn it. Kids don't, children aren't born hating somebody else because of their color. We
Right.
have differences. Learn to appreciate them, but we all have to learn that. Not all of us.
Right. And everyone should be given the opportunity, obviously, to pursue, as you said, their passion or their pursuits, right? So, yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. It's tough. I mean, I sit, everyone could sit, he's sitting on the sort of as a white male, I'm in the position where, they're, I guess you have to understand that you've had privilege, and then there's the flip side, right? Accepting and having everyone be treated as equal, right? Which is the way it should be, and the way, having grown up in Toronto, this is one thing that I was sort of, I guess, insinuating earlier. Having grown up in Toronto, specifically Scarborough, I grew up in a fairly multicultural environment whereby, I think someone like myself maybe looks at it slightly a little differently than someone from other parts of, even within Ontario or Canada. And obviously I would say even more differently than somebody in the US who has that very prejudicial background. What are your thoughts on, like, where do you see, how do you see things changing with what's happening? Obviously you've got Black Lives Matter, you've got the protests, you've got organizations that are working for change. Where do you see it going? Like, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I don't have a lot to probably input as much as you would. Like, where do you see it going?
Well, I think things can get better because it's on Black Lives Matter and brought exposed it for what it is. I mean, high tech has to. I mean, the Rodney King thing, that wasn't the first time. That happened many times. George Floyd, these things are brought to the attention because of the internet, because of high tech, because of telephone. These things are brought. Where is it going? I think we've got some qualified people working on it. There are others still living in denial. Even here in Canada, I've often heard them deny it, and whenever I bring it up, I'm playing the race card. That's not true. It's the reality card. But it's a two-way street.
Right.
We respect one another. I shouldn't be angry at you because you're a white dude. You are born what you are, and you know what? You're good and bad in every race.
Right.
You know, a lot of qualified people. I know the real true story of the civil rights movement, and I know that there were whites that got involved. I know some of the. I happen to know that some of the financing came from people like Frank Sinatra and
Right.
Mark Brando, who cared and risked their career because they cared. Marlon Brando, James Fonda, they didn't. They might have been committing career suicide, but they saw it. We need more of that. We need people who empathize and understand that most people I know of color just want. I don't want nothing given me. I just want equal.
An equal shot, right? A fair opportunity.
I don't see that in the media. The media is very few. The media in this country brings the news, brings the information. They bring it from their own perspective. Yes, we got a few blacks out there now who are angry people, but they're no weather. But that's cool. But they don't have an opinion. And most of the talk show hosts that I know, even the stations I used to work for, are right wing. They really don't have a perspective or empathy. They just jump and attack and attack. It's always the black community. Well, the black community is no different from the white community. Black on black crime, white on white crime. The fact is, the black community is made up of all these different cultures. They
Right.
may be black in skin, but they're from all over the world.
Right.
They're from all the countries in Africa and the Caribbean and Canada and the United States. We grew up under different cultures. We talk about black on black. It's just like German is different than Irish. Polish is different than English. You understand what I mean? French.
Yeah. No, definitely. There's a lot of different cultures involved in black or white, right? And
many of the guys I know in Raven, very successful guys. I have no problem. They never grew up in racism, police brutality. They never grew up in poverty. They don't have the same opinions. I would coming out of poverty and racism, seen preschool television from the time I was 8 or 9 years old. That doesn't mean there isn't good cops, and I have friends on the police force. But you know, I believe in this, Justin. I believe that the good cops, what they got to do call them bad cops. They want blacks, and they want the kids in the projects to snitch on one another. That's not the way it works, because these kids got to live in those areas, and that's why I understand that. They're risking their lives when a cop comes in there. He's carrying a gun to protect himself, but a lot of these kids don't have that protection. And then you've got, as far as you got that they want us to snitch on each other, but I think it's time that the good cops call out the bad cops.
Right.
Take courage.
Yeah. No, I agree. I hate to transition here, and I really appreciate you joining me, and I don't want to take all your time here. We'll end it with your sort of final one of the comments you wanted to talk about. What are your thoughts on the Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson comeback fight? I'll throw it back to you as a Hall of Fame boxing announcer personality. Tell us what your thoughts are. Give us some flair on that fight. And if it was 1990 versus 2020, what would be maybe the comparison between the two?
Back then, Roy Jones was the heavyweight champion of the world, but beat Ruiz. But Roy Jones was a hell of a fighter, hell of an all-around fighter. But in the 90s, Mike Tyson would have beat him like a red-headed stepchild.
Right.
He would have beat him. He just too much power. And Mike Tyson back then was something else. But now, hey, they got people talking. It's the most exciting conversation in boxing right now. Matter of fact, one of the most exciting in sports. Am I excited about it? Not really, but I'm interested. It should be quite a spectacle. They call it an exhibition, but I've seen too many exhibitions to know somebody gets tagged the wrong way, the ego comes in.
Right.
Now, these guys, one's 53 and I believe the other's 51. They don't have that second win anymore.
They might not even have the first win.
Here's the point. If Roy Jones can survive in the eye of the storm, and that's what he's going to be doing with Mike Tyson for maybe 2 rounds, he could win this by decision, or anything could happen when you get tired.
Right.
Roy is a tremendous boxer, but he hasn't got that speed he had back in the day.
Right.
Mike Tyson's got the one thing that he did have, that power.
Power stuff.
Last thing to go. He got old man power. Them guys hit you to knock you, they knock you cold. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting fight. I would, I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest with you, but Tyson looks impressive. But that's anybody look impressed for one or 2 minute clips.
Right. Are they going to go 12 rounds, or how many rounds would it be?
8 rounds.
8 rounds?
But I wouldn't call it an exhibition. But these guys are training, and maybe it's just hopes they're going to go 8 pity patty rounds and get paid. They call it an exhibition fight, but I can't see either of those guys giving all that money to charity.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's funny. My friends used to say I had old man strength, but anyways, that was because I just was weak and old. But no, I'm kidding. But okay, so we'll end it. We'll end it with one last question I ask everyone. I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You know, if you could speak to a younger Spider Jones, or to a younger person coming up, some of the kids that are coming through your organization. What would be one word of advice, one piece of advice you would give to that person, if you could, again, speaking to your younger self, or a person coming up? What would be that one word or piece of advice that you would give?
It took me a long time to get into radio, which was my dream from the time I was 10 years old. And the reason that was that I listened to so many other people who had negative thoughts. They had no vision of their own. They had no self-confidence, and yet they would hate on when I was my dream. I listened to them, and I put my dream on hold for a long time.
Right.
So you have a dream, stay focused, stay on it, be willing to sacrifice, be willing to sacrifice. Seek out good mentors, people that will believe in you and help you believe in yourself. And most of all, never give up on your dream. My book I wrote right now, one of them is called "A Dream Never Dies." A dream only dies when you kill it. Nobody else can kill your dream, only you.
There you go. Everyone out there, listen, persistence, never give up. I think you said sort of don't listen to the haters or the doubters or the naysayers, and keep focused on your dream, on your passion.
One last thing, very quickly, as I said, everybody wants to go to heaven, but how many are willing to die? In other words, translation, how many are willing to sacrifice for their dream? Because all the people I know that are successful, and I've interviewed many of them, they made a lot of sacrifices to get where they're going.
Yeah, I agree. So anyways, Spider, thank you very, very much for joining me here today. We've got you on Zoom now, so hopefully you can come back. We'll work on that. And again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I will, all of you out there watching, this is powered by Backers. It's Justin, Spider Jones, check it out. You can find them at believetoachieve.ca or spiderjones@rogers.com. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. Have a great day.
OMG, baby, tell them.